Welcome, college football fans, to the Triple Option. I'm Mikey Britt, alongside, as always, Blake Thomason,
The Georgia Bulldog fan, currently seeking reinstatement to the Georgia bandwagon.
as well as Alex Humble.
My Knolls are on a bye week this week, so I plan on watching a lot of football.
All right, it's kind of a down week this week. There's a lot of buys, but there should be some good games when we might catch a couple upsets this week. So it'll be interesting to see. We're going to start out with our picks to begin this.
All right, so taking from the top, number 25, UCLA at Colorado. No offense, Colorado. UCLA wins this one easy.
Yeah, UCLA had a close call against Cal last week. I got them in an easier win against Colorado.
UCLA.
All right, moving on, number 23, Marshall versus FAU. Can I just go ahead and say Marshall's going to win all their regular season games?
I think we can all just sustain that notion. I sustain that notion.
Uh, I'm going to take Marshall as long as they're playing teams that have multiple losses.
All right, so then we got 21, Clemson versus Syracuse. Syracuse put up a little bit of a fight versus FSU, but I don't think they're going to stay close with Clemson.
Yeah, Syracuse had a good showing last week against Wake Forest. I think it might be closer than people expect, but I'm going to take Clemson as well.
Yeah, I like Clemson even without their freshman QB in there.
Yeah. Number 16, Nebraska versus Rutgers. Amir Abdullah, Nebraska's offense, too much for Rutgers. Nebraska wins.
Yeah, Abdullah all the way, Nebraska.
Uh, yeah, Nebraska. I think it might be a little bit closer than we think. I haven't seen Nebraska do much this year, but they seem all around solid.
Yep. All right. Number 15, Arizona plays Washington State. This one could get interesting, but I think Arizona bounces back and handles Washington State.
Yeah, battle of the up-tempo offenses. It could be interesting, but I think off the bye week, Rich Rodriguez is going to rally his troops and get the win.
This is one of the few games this week that I was really thinking about taking the upset, picking the Cougars to win this. Pullman is not the loudest place, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and Arizona might fall asleep out there. But I'm taking Arizona.
Yeah. Another Arizona versus Washington game. We got ASU versus UW. Another interesting matchup, but I think that Arizona State and their offense is starting to get it rolling. I think they win this one.
So far this season. But I'm taking the upset. I'm taking Washington.
You know, if Washington showed a little bit more fight against Oregon, I would definitely consider picking them here. But I just like what ASU is doing.
Yeah. All right. So we got Ohio State and Penn State. Man, I think JT Barrett and the Buckeyes look good. I think they continue that this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're all just agreeing with each other for the most part. This is JT Barrett's first big game on the road. I think it'll be fine, though. I got Ohio State.
I got Ohio State. They're just too urban for those country boys.
Ah.
That was,
Oh, so good.
all
Too
right.
much.
So we got Kansas State and Texas. A few years ago, this one might have been a little bit better, but this year I think Bill Snyder's group, led by Waters at quarterback, will handle this game easy.
Could be a trap game for Kansas State coming off the big win against Oklahoma last week. Texas has played a lot of teams close recently. Don't discount that, but I still got Kansas State.
Kansas State.
All right. So then we got TCU versus Texas Tech. I think TCU is going to be able to just outduel Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is taking a step back this year.
Cliff Kingsbury is definitely the better looking coach, but Gary Patterson has the better team, TCU.
Yeah, better looking team for sure. Uh, yeah, TCU looking good, man. Only giving up 9 points last week. I like them.
All right, so in the top 10, we got Michigan State versus Michigan. I think this will also be easy. Michigan State. This rivalry has really dropped off in the last couple of years. I think Michigan State wins big.
Yeah, Michigan has been just a disaster this year. I got Michigan State in a romp.
I got Michigan State, and I got one step closer to Jim Harbaugh headed to Michigan. We'll see.
All right. So then we got Auburn versus South Carolina. Uh, Kind of interesting. Never know what Steve Spurrier and his group of boys will be able to do, but I think that Auburn just has too much talent. Nick Marshall has a big game.
I believe Auburn has now won 7 in a row against South Carolina, and South Carolina was a top 10 team to start the year. So watch out. Oh wait, never mind. Forget about that SEC.
I was like, whoa, dang, Alex. Yeah, man, I gotta take Auburn here as well.
Are we by ourselves?
Yeah, we might be.
Do we keep going?
Yeah, he'll make his way back.
Okay, well, we got Bama going to Tennessee. Bama looked really good last week, and I think they continue the roll against Tennessee. They win big.
You know what? Catherine Webb is the only 10 I see, but I gotta take the Crimson Tide.
All right, we got number one back in action after the bye week. Mississippi State travels to Kentucky. I think Dak Prescott has a big game. Kentucky just doesn't have the same horses. Mississippi State also wins big.
Looks like I'm thinking Kentucky's gonna be out of any sort of SEC hopes that they might have had. Yeah, they're out just like Alex.
All right, Alex, you're back. We just
My fault, guys.
Bama, Tennessee.
Bama, Tennessee. My pick.
Yeah.
your pick.
Roll Tide. Not much to be said here. Bama coming off the big win. Tennessee, big loss against Ole Miss. More of the same this week for Bama.
All right, what about Mississippi State, Kentucky? Who you got?
Don't discount Mark Stoops' squad. Good defensive coach, but still they're a year or two away from that program really having a big win like that. I got Mississippi State.
All right, moving on. We got Mikey's Ducks taking on the Cal Bears, Levi Stadium. Let's see. We got Oregon. They're 18-point favorites. Last year, UO put the whooping on them. It was 55-16. Cal's defense is 120th in the country in passing defense. I didn't even know there's that many schools. I see they're also 108th in rushing. I don't think this game's going to be close. I think we're going to see a lot of Marcus Mariota making some long-distance calls, big passing game. I think
That
they
throwback phone.
4 or 5 touchdowns at least.
Yeah, so Marcus, 238 straight passes without an interception. Look for that to jump up to about 270 to 275 after this game. Royce Freeman's looking for his third straight 100-yard rushing game, so that could be big for him. And then I kind of want to see the emergence of the depth of the wide receiver core for Oregon with Farrell Brown, Dwayne Stanford, Devin Allen, and the Jesuit man, Keenan Lowe. And then on top of that, Jared Goff on the other side for Cal. He has had a QBR of 80 this year, which is pretty dang good. And Sonny Dykes' offense, which
Alex.
that tells me is Jared Goff had a QBR of 29 against Washington 2 weeks ago. That's the best defense he's seen all year, and it's going to be more of the same this week. Oregon, easy.
That line of 18 is kind of low for me because Oregon was favorites over Michigan. I saw some places by 13 points. Yeah, Oregon. Don't miss your little brother's game on Friday night for this one. I like Marcus Mariota to continue his no interception streak. Royce is going to probably take some touchdowns away from Marcus, but I mean, hey, that's all right. Some causes for concern, just like if you're looking for, like going to be real nitpicky, is that this is the game before Stanford, and Stanford has been Oregon's season the last 2 years, and maybe you could say 4 or 5 years. We've watched them back-to-back years. This is a short week. It's a short week for both teams, but hey, we're the traveling team, and just overlooking an inferior opponent, and I believe that's what Cal is. Cal is exceptional in the passing game, so they do at least one thing well, and you got to credit them for that. Yeah, so I think the Ducks cover. And yeah, Cal and Jared Goff are looking to have a brighter future though. It's exciting to see them come back and making the Pac-12 a much deeper conference.
Yeah, and I think the way that Cal battled at Arizona, they really should have won that game. The Hail Mary at the end cost it for them. And then last week, watching that game, they really should have beat UCLA as well at home. So I think some of these close losses, it means something. They're definitely a lot improved from the last couple of years. But Oregon's just a different beast, and I don't think they're ready for it.
Real quick, last year, the game at Autzen Stadium between Cal and Oregon, there was like an absolute monsoon. Jared Goff got pulled out of the game. He fumbled a few times. The turnover ratio was 5-2, 7 turnovers in a game. The final score was 55-16. Like Cal scored 2 of their touchdowns with our backup defense in. If that's any sign, all arrows point to the Ducks winning this one. Good.
Yeah, I think you guys are totally right. Most teams like to say there's no such thing as moral victories, but I think for the Cal program, they might be able to take some of those losses as moral victories. A couple of years, I think they should be back competing in the Pac-12. Moving on, we got USC and Utah. This is a big game for the South Division. The line for this one is actually even. It's in Utah. I think this one is interesting. It's a battle of maybe 2 of the most talented running backs, at least out west. Buck Allen, he has the 10th most carries in all of FBS.
Wow.
USC has run for over 200 plus yards in their last 4 games, averaging 6.3 yards per carry. But it's going strength against strength here. Utah's got second best rush defense in the Pac-12. They've only surrendered 3 rushing touchdowns and 2.8 yards per carry. That's pretty stiff. Something though, I think the quarterback matchup, I give the advantage to USC. Utah's gone back and forth a little bit on their quarterbacks. Travis Wilson was named the starter for this one after a 1-week hiatus. Cody Kessler last week had a huge game, record-setting 7 touchdowns. To me, I think it's going to come down to the battle between the running backs, Booker versus Buck. Both of these defenses look good. USC leads the Pac-12 with 9 interceptions, but Utah's had 7 picks in like the last 4 games, and they also lead the NCAA with 33 sacks. All in all, though, I think USC just has a little bit more talent, maybe a little bit better coaching too. I think that, it either comes down to the X's or O's or the Billy or Joes, and I think USC's got the better Billies and Joes.
This game's going to be big here in the Salt Lake Valley. The Utah fans got their flags out. This is huge because Utah's got their pretty much season-defining stretch coming up where they play USC at Arizona and then they host Oregon. I'm actually taking Utah in this game, and let me explain. And it's very circular logic. Let's start at the quarterback position. Travis Wilson and Kendall Thompson have been having a quarterback battle, you could say. They've been kind of splitting time. And one of the key difference for me that sets Travis Wilson apart from Kendall Thompson is actually Devontae Booker. When Devontae Booker is running the ball with Kendall Thompson in the game, he has 52 carries, 198 yards. When Travis Wilson is in the game and Devontae Booker is running the ball, 68 carries for 500 yards. Travis Wilson keeps the defenses honest, and Kendall Thompson doesn't. So with Travis Wilson in the game, I know they only threw for 62 yards last week. I'm looking for a much better performance out of the passing game this week. Utah has a lot of weapons at receiver. If he can just get him the ball. We saw it last year against Stanford. Dres Anderson had a huge game in that win. And Utah is just a tough beast at home. The altitude in Salt Lake, their fans are crazy. They're some of the best in the Pac-12. And USC's had their number since they joined the Pac-12. They haven't won. But this is the best Utah squad they've had since joining the Pac-12. Kessler, Aguilar, and Buck Allen's going to be tough for the Utah defense to stop. But Utah's defense has been right up there, like you said, putting pressure on the quarterback. There's a great piece on their defensive end, Nate Orchard, on SI right now. 10.5 sacks. Look for him to have a big game and pressure Cody Kessler. It's not going to be the cakewalk that he had last week against Colorado. I'm taking Utah in a close game.
Pac-12 South. This is a matchup of 2 of the 5 ranked Pac-12 South teams. Utah lost to Washington State earlier this year, but they beat UCLA. I'd like to think that that's a sign of the Pac-12's depth and not that that Utah's shaky. But yeah, I'm taking Utah at home. I think Utah has a nice home field advantage out there, and USC is kind of hard for me to trust week in and week out. So yeah, Utah at home for me, and I think they cover.
Cover the even spread. Also, thing to note, I love with kickers. I'm wearing a Barcelona shirt, so the soccer goes with it. Andy Phillips, Utah's kicker, former USA Olympic skier. Let's see, so far in the year, he's 9 for 11 from 40 plus, 13 for 15 on the season. But don't sleep on Andre Hidari for USC. Both great kickers in the elevation. If it comes down to a final drive, both teams are more than capable of winning it with special teams.
Boy, it wouldn't be a triple option show if Alex didn't bring up some kickers.
Oh, yeah.
All right, staying out west, we got West Virginia versus Oklahoma State. West Virginia is in the top 25. Oklahoma State dropped out. This is another game that's even. It's at Oklahoma State. I think that Alex Garman, he's not been very impressive. 10 touchdowns, but also 7 interceptions. Coming off one of their worst losses in the last few years under Mike Gundy. Something else to note, it's not just a recent stretch. Oklahoma State is 0-4 versus their last ranked teams. This one could be interesting, though. West Virginia has one of the probably best dynamic duos between quarterback and receiver, and Clint Trickett and Kevin White. Clint Trickett over 2,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. Kevin White, look at his stats: 69 catches, 1,020 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's a whole season's worth for most players, and he's just about halfway through. Something to note for concern, though, for West Virginia. Running back Russell Shell is questionable, along with their cornerbacks Daryl Worley and Chestnut. Oklahoma State, still those Big 12 offenses, something to be concerned about, especially if you have 2 cornerbacks out. At the end of the day, though, I like West Virginia. I think they're on a roll. I think they've found the right stuff, both sides of the ball. They looked impressive, holding Baylor to 27, especially after Baylor just recently put up 61. I got West Virginia. Will be a close game, though.
How dare Oklahoma State ruin my upset special week last week? It hurt me. But fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm taking Oklahoma State again. Mike Gundy has been really upbeat in interviews and everything this last week. The whole team, it just seems like they're focusing on just forgetting all about what happened last week against TCU, and good riddance for them, because that was an ugly, ugly game. And at first, I really did want to take West Virginia. The way that TCU just tore apart that Oklahoma State secondary, it raises some major red flags coming into this game with Clint Trickett, Mr. 300, and Kevin White, Mr. 100, and probably 2 touchdowns. But Oklahoma State's just been a resilient bunch ever since Mike Gundy took over. It's hard to pick against them, especially at home, coming off such a tough loss. Dax Garman, he's been up and down this season at quarterback, but I am expecting him to have a big game. West Virginia is a different team on the road. They beat Texas Tech by 3, 37-34 a couple weeks ago, and they beat Maryland 40-37 on the road. So they're not the same team without that home crowd. And then I remember 2 years ago, coming off a huge Baylor win with all the national media, that West Virginia program led by Geno Smith. They had to go travel into Big 12 country out in the Texas-Oklahoma area, and they got their butts handed to them. So Dana Holgerson's got this is a big challenge for him, and if he accomplishes it, it'll kind of be him cementing his place at West Virginia. But I'm taking Oklahoma State.
I think since J.W. Walsh went out, Dax Garman just hasn't been doing the job. Um, I expect this game to be in the 30s or 40s, and if it gets into the 40s, I think West Virginia is going to run away with it. I think they're the sure bet to get to 40 before Oklahoma State. Yeah, I just like West Virginia to ride high here. They're recently ranked, and Oklahoma State is recently unranked. But I would say it would be an upset if Oklahoma State went out of it, came out with it. So yeah, West Virginia, I like them. I think they got a bunch of men, and they'll score 40.
All right. Next big game, we got Ole Miss at LSU going into Death Valley, favored by 3.5 points. I don't know how competitive this one will be, but it'll certainly be an electric atmosphere. And those LSU night games. But Bo Wallace and Ole Miss has just been so impressive. The defense, 10.6 points allowed, first in the NCAA. But even more impressive for me is just how good Bo Wallace has been. I know most people who watch the SEC have kind of just been waiting for Bo to slip up this year, and he hasn't done it. 1,899 passing yards, 17 touchdowns. And that defense, like I mentioned, they are a tough group, and they're led by different age groups. I mean, they got senior Senquez Golson, who leads the SEC with 7 picks. And then they have a freshman in Marquise Haynes, who leads the team with 6.5 sacks. So there's a lot of talent, and goes to show you what they've been able to do in the recruiting classes. This particular matchup in recent years, Ole Miss was up 35-28 recently, and then gave up 13 points to lose LSU. That was 2012. Last year, they upset number 6 LSU 27-24. So they've been going in the right direction. I think this year they're going to take another step forward, and they're going to win, and it's going to be pretty convincing. I'd say at least 17 points.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the media that's hyping this game up to be closer than what I expect it to be, and even Vegas is kind of buying into that hype with the 3.5-point spread. I mean, it is tough historically to pick against LSU at Death Valley, especially Ole Miss, who's just been mediocre for so long in the SEC West. But you can't trust the LSU Tigers this year with Anthony Jennings at quarterback. He has the weapons on offense in Traven Doral. Freshman Malachi Dupree had a huge game against Mississippi State, but he's been absent the last couple weeks. With inconsistent quarterback play, you're never going to be able to beat a good defense, and I worry about that for freshman running back Leonard Fournette, who was so hyped coming into the year. But I think Ole Miss is just going to be able to load the box, attack them, and if LSU can't score points, it doesn't really matter what Bo Wallace does, because he's gonna have the ball, and he's got weapons to get the ball to, like the Quan Treadwell. I look for him to have a big game, and I'm taking Ole Miss and easily to cover the spread. I'd give them a 14-point win at least in Death Valley.
Yeah, this is also a true upset in my opinion if LSU comes out with it, even in Death Valley, and that's kind of weird to say about a Les Miles led group in recent years, or for quite frankly several years. Bo Walsh is kind of falling under the radar, and both those Mississippi quarterbacks are doing a good job. Bo Wallace doesn't have the rushing stats that Dak Prescott has, but he's in pretty much all passing categories. He's had a slightly nicer year than Dak. Yeah, I'm gonna take Ole Miss here on the road.
Yeah, I think that's it's definitely weird, the shift in the SEC powers.
Hmm
All right, so last bit of our segment, breakout players. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the Ducks have a big advantage passing the ball against Cal. I'm picking Devin Allen for my breakout player. I see 150 plus receiving yards and a couple touchdowns from him.
I'm going to go outside the box here with my pick. I don't necessarily look for him to have a great statistical game, but just in managing the game and pulling out a big win for his team, I'm going Travis Wilson. I think it's kind of his time, and I'm looking for him to help the Utes pull the upset against the Trojans.
Alex and I like Utah this week, man. I got Devontae Booker, as Blake mentioned earlier. This guy had a really nice game, scored the game-winning touchdown on the road at Oregon State. That's a big win for them. Oregon State was looking pretty close to getting inside the top 25, and yeah, they took them out on the road. It's a nice road win. Devontae Booker, yeah, he looks pretty special. He in a battle between him and Buck Allen. I know they won't be tackling each other, but look for the stat sheet to be indicative of who won the game between who has better stats between those two. Devontae Booker is my breakout player this week.
Yeah, it definitely will be fun to watch the battle between those two running backs. For the Heisman hopefuls, the game we just talked about, Bo Wallace actually. Like you guys said, this might not be that close of a game, but it's still a big stage, a lot of national media, prime time. I think if Bo Wallace comes out and has a big game, which I think he'll be capable of doing, LSU's defense has certainly been less than stellar. I think he gets up into that conversation. It'll be a big win. It'll be a big boost for the program to see them be able to handle success, especially in this environment. Bless you. So Bo Wallace, hopefully, or not hopefully, but his Heisman hopes they could be looking good after this weekend.
I guess this is cheating, but I'm taking Super Mariota. It's such an easy pick for me to make. I really feel like his Heisman, especially with Dak Prescott kind of being out of the national spotlight, not playing last week, and not in a huge game this week per se. If Marcus lights it up against Cal, you can't. The interception streak is so impressive to me. A quarterback that can just be that pinpoint, precise, and take that much care of the ball, especially with the offensive line that's had issues throughout the year. Cal's given up a lot of points. The Colorado game, Colorado scored 56. Arizona almost touched 50 on them in the game. They had the Hail Mary. Look for Oregon to exceed 50 points on Friday night and have a big win. And Marcus will shine.
You guys, this one's easy for me. Since his first touchdown, we all knew he would win the Heisman. I got to take Leonard Fournette right here. No, but really, I'm going with Bo Wallace as well. This guy's not getting very much credit. I mean, yeah, he has a lot of great talent around him, a lot of big-time recruits, it seems. Yeah, I like his stats are looking good, but he leads the team. He leads this team, and he's a big reason why they're ranked third in the country right now. The Egg Bowl is going to be a really big game for determining the Heisman. If anything, who's going to New York, but I think both of these guys may end up heading to New York.
Yeah, that'll definitely be an interesting game to watch. Got it circled, Egg Bowl. Before we wrap the show up really quick, just in case you guys didn't get it, Todd Gurley did request reinstatement for the program. Something interesting, I just recently saw the person who paid Todd Gurley came out and said that he wishes he didn't pay him the $400. He specifically quoted that. That's something interesting to note because $400 is the max that you can get paid without getting suspended more than 2 games. So if that is the actual case, then Todd Gurley has already served his 2 games and should be back against Florida.
And in recent Jameis Winston news, he hasn't been in the news.
And that's probably more news. It's bigger news than anything else.
Oh yeah.
As long as Mariota stays away from Judas, I think he'll be all right.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll have our reactions coming up next week, Sunday or Monday, and we'll keep you up to date with any news that happens later on.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.